So is it all about to change? In Reno's real estate market, staying informed is the only way to stay ahead. So what is going on with the real estate market here in Reno, Northern Nevada? Well, as home prices continue to rise and inventory tightens, or maybe it's actually starting to loosen, buyers and sellers are navigating a landscape that is constantly shifting. With a growing influx of tech workers, retirees, and even some investors too, the market is continually evolving. But if you're not up to speed on these changes, you can miss out on key opportunities, or even worse, make costly mistakes. This update could be the difference between a great investment and a missed chance. So whether you're looking to buy, sell, invest, or relocating, knowing the latest trends isn't just helpful, it's essential to making smart, strategic decisions in this competitive market. So before you make your next move, ask yourself, are you prepared for what's coming? This update will give you the insights you need to navigate Reno's evolving real estate landscape with confidence. If you're thinking about moving to Northern Nevada, subscribe to this channel. We put out great content every week so you'll be well informed on everything you need to know. So what's happening so far in the real estate market this year here in Northern Nevada? And you know I don't like to get all bogged down in numbers and all that kind of stuff, but I wanted to show you all how different things have been over the last 5 years. But let's talk specifically about what's going on this year through the end of July. So we're recording this video in August, and so far through the first 7 months of the year, what I like to do with prices is break them out into tiers. And so when people call me and they start asking about areas and locations and where they want to live, one of the first things we've got to do is figure out what price point they're in, because it makes things happen in different areas. So let's start off with the high-end pricing stuff first. I call that tier 1. So the number of sales that have happened over $4 million this year so far has been 4. And there wasn't a home sale over $5 million. So just know there's not a lot that happens in that price point. So the second part of that is from $2 million to $4 million, which is starting to be an actual decent price point in our area now. There have been 53 sales. And the one that's actually been the busiest in that over $1 million range is from $1 million to $2 million. There were 249 sales. So we've literally had over 306 sales this year, over $1 million, which when I first started real estate just never happened. So that tier 1 pricing has gotten busier than ever has before. But this second group, what I call tier 2, are the homes between $700,000 and $1 million. And anymore, this is typically a second home for most local residents, or if someone's relocating here from another area, this ends up being a price point many of them go into. A lot of our 55 and over communities fall into this $700 to $1 million price point. So it's become very popular. But what's funny is from $900 to $1 million, there's only been 74 sales. So it's kind of funny how over $1 million, there's been a lot of sales. But as soon as you drop under $1 million, that first group, not nearly as many. The next tier from 800 to 900 was 155 sales. And then again, another 240 sales from 700 to 800,000. So we're pushing 470 sales. And really anything over $700,000, which is above our average sale price here, has been 775 sales. It's actually been a lot of properties. Now, if we go to tier 3, and tier 3 is really the wheelhouse of real estate here in Reno, Nevada. Our average sale price in Northern Nevada is pushing towards $600,000. So these are all the homes that are selling between $400,000 and $700,000. And this group literally is more sales than all the other 3 tiers put together. So the highest point of this is between $600,000 and $700,000. There's almost 450 sales. Between $500,000 and $600,000, which is our average sale price, that's where all the average homes tend to fall, is 658 sales. And then there's another batch of homes. My son falls into this. He's in a home in the mid 400s. It's kind of a starter entry-level home that doesn't always need a lot of work, but a lot of these homes can be in the 20, 30, 40-year-old range. There were 756 home sales, which is over 1,800 sales, which is literally 65-ish% of the total sales so far this year that are happening in that tier 3. Tier 4, when people say they can't find affordable homes, you can still find them. They're just not always in great condition. They sometimes need quite a bit of work. Sometimes they're older. They might be really small, but anything under $400,000. So between $300,000 and $400,000, there were 368 sales. There was another 191 sales between $200,000 and $300,000. Let's be honest, a lot of these are going to be potentially condos and townhomes. And then if you're looking under $200,000, there's only been a handful at 68 sales. And this group, again, you can find stuff here, but this is going to be places where you're going to need to do a lot of work potentially on houses that are going to be smaller in outlying areas. So there's literally been over 3,200 sales so far this year, and it's been over $2 billion in sales volume, and the history only includes things that have happened in our MLS. So if someone is doing a for sale by owner, or if someone bought new construction that's not an MLS sale, then those are not going to be included in these numbers. And why I wanted to show you these is as we're going to compare what's gone on the last 4 years, because again, we'll talk about this at the end, but people keep waiting for prices to go down and interest rates to go down and the market to crash. And it's just not going to happen, and we're going to show you why. So we're going to talk about just prior to when COVID started. So at the beginning of 2020, through the first 7 months of that year, there was literally 4,240 total sales, which is 1,000 more than the first 7 months of this year. But the sales volume was literally $150 to $160 million less in total sales volume. So you can see massively more sales, massively lower prices. And that leaked right into the first half of 2021. So those first 7 months of 2021, there was 4,552 total sales, and it was $2.48 billion. So it was a lot of money. If you divide that by the total number of sales, prices were still lower then than they are now. Almost identical numbers in the first part of 2022. The sales total went down by about 600 units, but the sales volume was almost the same. And literally as the market, the second half of 2022, these numbers won't show that. That's where you saw those interest rates that were in the high 2s and low 3s start working their way up all the way up to 8%. And now they've sort of worked their way back down to the mid-high 6s at the time of shooting this video. But the first 7 months of last year, we literally had 2 less home sales, but there was $85 million less in sales volume. So even though prices have sort of flattened out, they're definitely not coming down, and they keep on average trickling up. And this is why all those people that keep waiting and waiting and waiting, I don't know why you're waiting. Now is the time, as more inventory has showed up, as we talk, rates are finally being discussed about coming down in September and into the fourth quarter of this year and first quarter of next year. So as buyers, I think it's time to make your move and get the property you want. And even for those people that have been locked in, there were so many home sellers locked into their houses, I'm one of them, that are on such a low rate and such a low payment and bought their home far enough back, their payment is so much lower than it would be if they were buying that house today, that now you're finally starting to see some people, if they can get that rate low enough, that are finally deciding, you know what, I do want that bigger house. I do want that smaller house. I do want to relocate to another area. So let's talk about, in my opinion, why the market's not going to crash. If you're someone thinking about moving to Northern Nevada, click the link in the description below so that you can get a copy of our free buyer's guide. It will give you the information you need to get started on your journey to homeownership in Northern Nevada. So the first slide we want to show you is the market pricing that has happened over the last 10 years. So if you look at this slide and you go back to the very beginning, which goes back to 2014, which is 10 years ago, you're going to see that the average home price back in those days was in the mid-low 200s. And you can see that over time, it's not a straight line. It curves up and down, that prices have steadily gone up for 10 years. And for those of you that have been waiting for prices to go down, it already happened. You can look right here on this slide where you can see that 10, 12, 14% decline in prices that happened second half of 22, early 23, that everyone waited for. But now you can see, if you look at the current pricing, we're above where we were at the peak 2 years ago. So we already had that market correction on pricing. It's not something that I personally think you're going to see again, especially as you're starting to see those interest rates come down. So now if you look at the next slide, we're talking about average home prices in the Reno. Now, we're not talking about the other outlying cities. We can do those another day. But our average price is now pushing towards $600,000. You're seeing our average list to sell price is still almost 100% at 99.5. Homes that are priced well, that are in good condition, are still only taking 14 days on average to sell. And when they show the average price per square foot, that number, it really depends on the area, because there's some areas where the homes are going to be in the 200s, and then there's really high-end areas where the homes are going to be in the 500 and 600 per square foot. So that number is not exactly the greatest, but the inventory of 929 homes and new listings of 565, those numbers are starting to creep up. And I think part of it is, again, people now are seeing on the buying side, or maybe even on the refinance side, rates getting low enough to finally say, you know what, I really do want to do something. I really do want to make that move, because now they're living in a house that's too small. Or I've had this even more, where I have people that are now empty nesters living in big homes, and they're trying to figure out a way to downsize, and it didn't make any sense because their payment would have been the same, so they just stay in the bigger house. So you're seeing all these numbers change, but our average prices continue to go back up, and we're now way ahead of where we were 2 years ago when those prices did have that temporary correction for about 12 to 18 months. Finally, here's where we're going to go. The 3 biggest reasons as to why the market is not going to crash. At least here in Northern Nevada, maybe in a community that is somewhere else, they're going to have different stories. But where we live, here are the 3 biggest reasons, and they're the same 3 reasons we've been talking about over and over on multiple different things that I do in business. But one, inventory is still well below the norm. I know people keep talking about inventory ticking up. On the slide we just showed you, average month supply of inventory is still only 2.3 months. And for an even market where it would be not considered a buyer's or a seller's market, is usually considered 6 months. Now, considering at one point we were below 1 month's level of inventory, it feels like there's a lot more for sale signs out there, and it feels like there's a lot more inventory out there. But compared to the peak years back when the market was literally crashing back in 07, 8, 9, 10, depending on where you lived, we're nowhere close to those levels of inventory. So if there's not enough inventory, there's no way for there going to be pricing to head in the south direction. The next slide that we're going to talk to you about is builders, and people feel like they're building like crazy. But in reality, because there was so little building, especially from like 2010 to 2015, they're just catching up slowly. So as many new home construction sites that are going on here in Reno, there's still not enough new construction happening that is going to flood the market with inventory to cause prices again to come down. And then the third slide here talks about foreclosures. And if you go look back again at the peak of the recession and when the market was falling apart 15 years ago, foreclosures, bad loans, people upside down on their properties was dramatic back then, where now, even if prices backed up a little bit, most people, if you bought your home more than 2 years ago, are going to be in a situation where they still have equity built up in their house unless they did a zero-down loan program. And again, as much as the level of foreclosures has ticked up, during the COVID period, the number of foreclosures was ridiculously low because you couldn't really even do a foreclosure then. But if you look over the most recent years, it is still pretty level. It's still pretty flat. You're always going to have a certain level of foreclosures, but nothing that we need to worry about anywhere close to when people are waiting for the market to crash. So whatever you watch on the news, whatever you're hearing nationally, don't worry about that stuff. Worry about your local market. So if you're someone who's watching these videos thinking about moving to Reno and you have a home to sell in another market, reach out to me. If you don't have a professional there, let's get you in touch with somebody that can tell you all the stuff I know about here, about your local market there, so we can figure out if things are a little bit different, if your market's a little bit soft, or maybe your market's even hotter than mine and prices are going up and you can really, make a killing on a sale somewhere else where you live. So check out some of the other videos we've done about cost of living and other things about learning about our area. And just know, don't watch the national news. Reach out to a local professional. The market and the sky is not falling. And so we have the stats and the data and the information to back it up. And I know it really well in my area. And like I said, we'll find you someone in yours if you don't have someone that gets you the same information. If you're someone who's thinking about moving to Northern Nevada, check out this video we did about housing affordability. So if pricing and those kind of things are sensitive to you, check this video out. There's lots of other areas besides just Reno that could work for you. So see what you think.